Hi everybody, welcome back to Explaining Acro. I'm Cassandra and this is Ben, and today we're going to be teaching you roll-ups.
Like the Russian roll or the Turkish get-up, both of which we've previously covered on this channel, the roll-up is really a movement puzzle for the base. It's going to challenge our strength and stability and give us something a little different to focus on. It's a little bit more practical and accessible than Russian rolls or Turkish get-up, so it might be a nice starting point if you're interested in those skills.
Flyers, for this skill, it's a lot about mindfulness and just building an awareness of where the ground is below our feet. And this is so we can help the base either by leaning forward or leaning back, depending if we're standing up or getting down.
In this skill, we're going from a lying position to a seated position, and there is going to be some amount of spinal flexion that's happening, and we're doing this kind of crunching motion. We are using techniques such as moving the flyer's weight closer to our hips. That's going to reduce the load on our abs and our spine. But if you find that you're getting pain here, don't do it. There's all sorts of great tricks that you can do that don't involve these things. So if that's something that causes you pain, find another trick to do.
Before trying this skill, we recommend being comfortable with L-base extended foot to hand for 10 seconds and also having familiarity with standing foot to hand.
Bases. I'd also recommend that you be comfortable moving from a sitting position to a lunging position using something like a 90-90. So it gets its name because our legs are going to be forming these 90-degree angles with our bodies. And then from here, we're going to be pushing down through our legs and pushing our hips through in order to get into this position. Then I'm going to rotate my front leg forward and step my back leg through to reach my lunge. Now that we've covered the basic technique, we could talk about what it means to do this with a person. So as a first step, we should be making sure that we're able to do this technique with an external load, either from a barbell, dumbbells, some kettlebells or something like that, that's around the weight of your flyer. It can be a little bit less because the flyer is able to help by leaning forwards and backwards to assist you in moving up and down. But if you really struggle with weights close to your flyer's body weight, you might want to work with a different flyer or work on getting stronger first. When learning this skill, I recommend either having a partner pushing down on your hands or ideally using a barbell. The barbell is really nice here because it emphasizes what's going to be happening as we transition from sitting to lying down. So we start with our barbell and we're going to step back into a reverse lunge. From here, I'm going to tuck that back leg and sit back down on it and reach my seated position. From here, I'm going to think about pressing the barbell towards my hips as I lean back. What this does is it actually reduces the amount of weight that my abs need to lift because the weight is closer to my lower back. So I'm pushing forward as I roll back, and then as I arrive, I'm going to allow the bar to come back over my nipples. Like when we were learning this technique without the flyer on top of us, we're going to start by focusing on the eccentric or moving down. The reason for this is we're able to be both stronger in that position as well as move slowly and start to really understand the technique. So we're going to start by mounting to our foot to hand, however it feels comfortable. From here, I'm going to step my leg back into that lunge. Now I'm going to tuck that back leg and slowly start to sit back.
In flyers, I'm really squeezing my glutes, squeezing my feet in, helping the base, keeping their hands steady.
Now, as I lean back, I'm going to push towards my hips in order to reduce the load on my abs and spine.
Flyers, I'm letting myself fall backwards with the platform and keeping my hips engaged. And at the end, pulling my feet in as we find this ending position.
You'll notice I didn't actually get my hands straight there as I was leaning back, but I'm really thinking about that push, and that does a lot to unload my spine and abs.
Flyers, with the roll down, the skill is traveling backwards, which means that we are also traveling backwards, which can be scary as a flyer when first attempting this. That's why often I enjoy doing the roll up when first learning with a more experienced base. And that's because this skill is traveling forward, which then puts me in a safer place for bailing if I need to, where I can land on my feet.
The reason that I recommend bases learn this skill by moving backwards is because the hardest part is that sit up at the bottom. Cassie is absolutely right that it is more natural and feels safer for the flyer to move forwards. But as bases, if we're getting stuck on that roll up, we're not gonna be able to do it successfully. So in a partnership where the base has done the skill once or twice before, I would definitely recommend starting with the roll up. At this point, hopefully the roll down is starting to feel comfortable and we can start working on the roll up. As we've discussed before, the base transition from lying to seated is probably the hardest part of this skill. And very often we'll see that the flyer is getting dumped off as the base is arriving to that seated position. For that reason, we highly recommend working with a spotter who will be at the flyer's hips the entire time as the skill is happening.
Flyers, in this roll up position, we can help the base move the skill forward. And we do this by following the platform and helping by, leaning forward a little bit and then pumping the brakes by pulling back once the base is up to that seated position.
Now we're ready to start talking about the roll up. So to initiate the movement, I'm going to be moving my arms towards my hips. This is going to do a couple things. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to give us a little bit of momentum that it's going to make it easier for us to get up. The second point is that what we're really trying to have happen here is we're trying to bend our hips to go from hip extension to hip flexion. We're in our seated position. If the weight is farther from the hips where we're moving, it's going to be a lot heavier than if the weight is directly over the hips because we're going to have a much shorter lever. Now, as I move the bar towards the hips, I'm thinking about almost pulling myself underneath that bar. So my arms are bending here and I'm using the weight of that bar in order to help me get up. From here, we're going to be transitioning through our 90-90. So I'm bringing my legs in as we talked about before, and then I'm going to step through to my lunge and stand up.
Flyers, I'm anticipating the movement of this skill that it's about to go forward. So I'm really engaged and waiting for that cue from the base.
So here, I'm going to initiate by moving my hands towards my hips. If I want a little bit of extra momentum, I can actually lift my legs, and as I move them down, I can start that movement. So I'm going to bring my legs down, move the arms forwards, and scoop underneath.
Flyers, there, I'm really squeezing my butt, trying to travel with the platform. And then as we hit this sitting position, I'm pulling my chest just slightly back to help us stop the momentum.
From here, I'm tucking my knee under and my other knee under to get to that 90-90 and pushing up into my lunge.
And Flyers, I'm gently leaning forward, helping the base step forward.
From here, I'm going to stand up with both legs and we're in our foot to hand.
Flyers, although this skill is us holding the same shape, there's a lot of subtle things that we are doing to help this skill be successful. Here are some common things that I see when coaching this skill and also playing with it myself. So one of the things that I really focus on is keeping my feet externally rotated, because I find in our partnership with me and Ben, his hands rotate in, which can cause my feet to be pigeon-toed. So I'm actively turning the feet out, and this is creating stability within our connection and my hips. Additionally, I'm also thinking about pulling my feet in together to help keep the base's arms stable as they are moving through these positions. Sometimes there's a tendency for the arms to go wide, and Flyers, we can really help by pulling in our legs there. The last thing that I'm really thinking about is where is the skill going and where is the platform, because we want to stay on top of that platform. And this means anticipating that movement. So throughout the skill, I am gently leaning forward or backward, and I'm doing this by subtly shifting the weight in my foot, either more to the ball or more to the center. It's not coming from any body change movement, such as a pike or arching.
As you practice this skill, I recommend going back to the roll down often in order to really refine your technique. Don't be afraid to spend some time in the gym with weights or with slightly smaller flyers than your typical partner in order to build some strength and comfort in the position. Once these are feeling good, you can experiment with doing them in hand-to-hand. We find that it's actually very accessible relative to something like hand-to-hand Russian rolls or like a mono foot-to-hand or mono hand-to-hand Turkish get-up, so it can be a fun challenge for you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, we'd really appreciate it if you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. If this type of skill really speaks to you, let us know in the comments section down below, and check out the videos we've done in the past on Russian rolls and Turkish get-ups. We'll have links for those in the description, and see you next time.